gondola. How'd you come up with that one?
Well, we've had a place in Mammoth for the last 15 years or so, and my son's friend had this original gondola from Mammoth in his yard.
Oh my God.
And I was pointing it out. I was like, "That's really cool." And he said, "You know, if you could get me some proper surface for this mini ramp I'm building him, I'll give it to you."
Really?
And then we did that trade, and then at some point I realized, what am I doing with this giant gondola? But I still think it's cool. It's one of the original ones from the 70s?
Yeah,
60s, 70s,
probably. Yeah. I've always wanted to get a chair from a chairlift.
Right.
One of the single bars with a seat on either side.
Yeah, that one that's terrifying.
Exactly.
When you sit in it,
Yeah, that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, but we do a lot of family trips to Mammoth, so that's why.
Do you? Okay, sweet. All right, first of all, tell us about this international tour you have coming up, and what's on tap for it, and why are you still doing stuff like this?
Well, I'm going to do a speaking tour, actually, through Europe at the end of the month. And I've been doing a lot of speaking gigs over the last 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
And that's starting to be more of a thing for me than I expected. When I first did it, it was sort of as it was like an honor to be invited to do it at this event I did, and then that suddenly transpired into getting actually paying gigs and doing this sort of thing and doing corporate events. And so I try to relate my story to whatever the theme is of the event or the crowd or the region, and just give the sort of literal ups and downs of what I went through to be successful at skating. And it's fun. I enjoy it, and I think I've gotten better at it over the years. And so I was offered to do, this is the first time ever doing it on my own, like actually selling tickets to events and booking venues and things. And so that'll be a test. I don't know if it'll work.
Okay.
But it's fun, and I'm still trying to recover from an injury, and I am skating, but I'm not skating at a level that I really want to do it in public.
Okay.
So that allows me to still do appearances and be out there.
And this tour, is it strictly speaking, or do you have other guys with you skating that'll do some performing?
This tour is strictly speaking, at venues with stages.
Let me also ask you, the documentary, Until the Wheels Fly Off, was that the name of it? I watched that, great documentary. And you touch a little bit on mental health. Is that some of what you will talk about during this tour or not?
Sure, yeah, I think that's a big factor in skating in terms of what it can bring you for mental health, the sort of reprieve you can get from going out and skating and resetting yourself. And I think that also skating can give you a sense of self-confidence, a sense of identity, a way to problem solve on your own. I mean, I feel like it benefits you in so many ways, and they're all linked to mental health. And I mean, that's why I'm a huge advocate for public skate parks. So yeah, but also in the documentary, we're touching on the sort of pressures that I was under as a young, successful professional skater, which was very uncharted because no one had done that before. Skating sort of became popular while I was riding the wave of it, and so we were navigating this territory that no one had ever done before, and it was hard. It was really hard to be under that much pressure, to be so young, to be on display, and it was the '80s. People were harsh. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There was no policing of mean comments. Let's put it that way.
Well, but at the same time, imagine what that is for today's skaters with social media.
Sure.
Where there still aren't those rules, but oh my gosh, it's exponential, the type of harsh comments that can reach out there.
Yeah, without question, the advent of social media has changed the landscape in terms of criticism, in terms of being vulnerable. And when I was skating, people would just come up to you and say it to you in person. And you know,
people don't have the guts to do that
and
anymore.
now they do it behind some anonymous username, and so there's a shift in that. I think I feel, as hard as it was, I feel lucky that I lived through that era because it hardened me to what was to come.
Okay.
which would be public scrutiny, in terms of crying sellout and your sense of values, and then along came social media, and people are keyboard warriors, and that didn't affect me as deeply. And it kind of, I had this shell that I had created, and it was just like, that's just all nonsense noise. And I hope that at the very least I can pass that on to maybe kids who are coming up in the age of social media, to say, you got to just ignore it. Like, it's like having one heckler in a comedy show. You got to tune that out, because the rest of the crowd is with you. They may not be as vocal, but they're with you.
You talk about the 80s mean. What's an example, and is it mean from another competitor that's just, talking smack, or is it some people or fans that are inconsiderate?
It came from all angles in the 80s. Yeah, I think that I used to get blasted in the magazines for my style.
Okay, the writers,
and,
the lousy media.
Well, Thrasher magazine was one of the Bibles of skateboarding.
Sure.
And I would win an event, and then I would get criticized for my tricks in the article. I was like, where do I fit in?
Yeah.
This is the place where you're trying to get to, and they're giving you bad reviews. It was really hard to accept, and to my face too. I mean, hey, Tony Hawk rhymes with bony, and that didn't help me along the way when I was in high school.
Can we use that on TV?
I don't know, but I'm sure you can figure out what the rhyme was there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was, all that stuff compounded, but also it gave me some resolve that I just love to ride my skateboard, and so I'm not looking for great acceptance in that, or great acceptance in my style. But also, when I would get those criticisms, especially from the skate industry, it made me want to prove them wrong by learning other techniques.
Okay.
And so it wasn't that I was being vindictive. It was just more that okay, well, I'll figure out this other style of skating.
Yeah.
I'll figure out these other tricks that you deem as more relevant or gnarlier. And I just kind of put my head down and did it. And I definitely took the hits along the way, but it was more just determination.
Yeah, it motivated you.
Yeah, it's a bummer that that's what it takes to be motivated, is criticism from your peers. But for me, it did work, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be curmudgeonly, like, these kids don't know what it's like, and I understand it's all tricky. It's all even now with the advancement of social media, and everyone is seeing everything all at once, and you're out there, you're putting yourself out there. That can be damaging for sure.
Yeah.
And so you got to be prepared for what's to come if you want to put yourself out there. If you don't, then you don't have to. Now,
is all of this some of what you'll talk about on your speeches during this tour?
Sure, I'll talk about that, but mostly I talk about my journey of being a super skinny, awkward, outcast kid, and learning how to skateboard and trying to find my way through that. I mean, there's a lot of lessons in there in terms of being an outcast, then choosing an outcast activity, then being an outcast within the outcast activity, and it's like, where do you belong?
Yeah.
And you've got to find your sense of purpose.
Well, you've done pretty well.
Oh, well, thank you. But I do feel like there are lessons in that you can apply to other fields, to other interests, and I think the bottom line is to tell people, to encourage them to follow their passion.
Okay, very cool. I could talk to you all day about this, but let's pop this open. So we're going to give you this pad so you can watch this story. If I ask you to pause, just hit the middle of the screen.
Okay.
Because I might have you pause a couple times,
okay,
get your reaction to whatever. But this is a story we did in 1986. I think in here you mentioned that you're 18 years old.
Yep.
The young skinny lad, is that what you call yourself?
I didn't call myself that, but if you did, I'll take it.
Okay, sounds good. So go ahead and take a hold of that and hit the play button, and if I have you hit pause, I'll ask you a question.
Wow.
Skateboarding's back, and no one's flying higher right now than Tony Hawk, that tall, lanky 18-year-old from Carlsbad.
So that's the house. That's the house that I bought.
Pause for a second.
When I was in high school, and I see parked across the street is my first car, 1977 Honda Civic.
It is.
That's crazy because I have not. Someone asked me recently, "Do you have a picture of that car?" And I said, "No, I don't." So this is the first image I've seen of it since then.
So let's pause for a moment there and let me ask you, at 18 years old, you've bought a house. Now, is that your parents realizing you're making a lot of money investing in real estate, or do you have a brain you're saying, well, I've bought my Honda and I've got a nice skateboard, I guess it's time to buy a house?
No, it was absolutely my dad encouraging me to put my money away because he was worried, and rightly so, that it wasn't going to last.
and were you thinking, Dad, I don't want to buy a house, or what were you thinking?
No, I was actually 17 when he brought up the idea to me. So the idea of living on my own and having roommates my age, yeah, I was all in. I mean, I don't think he understood that he was planting the seeds of
party time.
Of a party time, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was thankful because things did. I had a really good run of success in those years. Mm-hmm. Ended up buying another place, and very quickly everything kind of fell apart, and I had to sell the other place because I was underwater in it.
Okay.
And then luckily I went back to this place that he encouraged me. I mean, it was my safety net.
Yeah. What happened to that house? Do you still have it, or has it?
No,
it?
No, it's gone.
He's appeared in several films, including the
funny.
upcoming Police Academy 4, and was featured in this TV commercial for Mountain Dew.
It's great.
Wow.
Sometimes it's weird because you don't expect people to recognize you when you're walking down the street, because I'm just like everyone else. And
That Mountain Dew commercial was shot near Balboa Park.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
We're going to have to pull that up. How about the haircut?
I mean, I guess that was my signature back then. They called it the McSqueeb.
The McSqueeb.
Yeah.
Now, was it inspired by the flock of seagulls, or no?
No, it was actually my friend Kevin Staub. He started growing his bangs, and his were like almost down to here. And,
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a cool look, so I copied him and bleached them. Remember Sun In?
Oh, yes, sun in and sun out, or whatever. Yes, I remember the commercials.
Yeah, except it started turning our hair orange, so we went and got it professionally done. But yeah, people ask me that a lot. If that's flock of seagulls, that wasn't the vibe.
Okay, it was your buddy.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it became a skater look at the time.
Yeah, it really did. Okay, go ahead and keep
if
going.
I could still run it, I would, but
you could grow it out.
and it's just weird.
Tony's not just a free-spirited kid whizzing around on wheels. He's got a savvy business sense. Cashing in on skateboarding's new popularity, he's marketing a skateboard that bears his name and is developing his own line of clothing.
For an 18-year-old, well, for actually anyone, I'm making a lot of money.
More money than you thought you'd ever make?
A lot more. I never thought I'd really make anything.
it's wild that I in this exact time frame I look exactly like my son Keegan.
Really?
Like, yeah, my son Keegan right now, he's actually turning 21 next week. But
you see your son there?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'd say it's like a sport and an art. And a business, it's all three.
I never imagined it'd be a whole article or a whole segment just of me on a jump ramp outside my house. I really don't remember that.
You don't remember that? And
no, because I thought we shot everything for news segments back then at the skate park.
Oh, at the park.
Yeah.
Must have been something special about Channel 8. And it looks like your ramp has gotten a little bigger here.
Yeah, I added on to it a bit.
All right, go ahead and finish it up. It's just about over.
He's skateboarding full-time right now. Once all the fame and fortune has passed, then he says he'll go to college. Thinking about mathematics as a major. Good idea. This Hot Wheeler may have a lot of change to count in the future. Linda Moore, News 8, Carlsbad.
Okay, hit pause again. Once all the fame and fortune is over, you're going to go to college. Did you ever go to college?
I didn't. I did go tour a couple campuses with my dad, just to appease him.
You did.
Yeah, because he was. I was going to be the first of his kids to not go to college. I have three older siblings.
Okay.
Who all went to college. So I think that was a tough pill for him to swallow. Mm-hmm. But after this is when things started to get a lot bigger, and where he saw that this is probably this is probably a more promising future
Uh-huh.
than me trying to get an education and 4 years later try to figure out what I'm doing, because I was already doing well and exploring other avenues of what this was.
Yeah. Well, I think you've done pretty good without going to
Oh,
college.
thanks. It was lean for a while though. It was after this, around like 1991, 91 to 95-ish, things were really difficult to make a living as a skater.
Yeah, and why was that? Or let me ask you, when you had the house, where was that money coming from? Was it just winning competitions? Because I know eventually the video game just opened the vaults. But where was the money coming from initially? And then why did it dip so low from 91 to 95?
Well, most of the money was income based. I mean, most of the income was royalty based. So it was skateboards with my name on it.
Okay.
In this segment, clothing that lasted for a little while.
Okay.
But there came to be a conflict, so I had to bail out of the clothing thing. But
Yeah.
and competition earnings.
Okay.
So it was most of those, and then not really. It wasn't really salaries in the tradition of sports. So
Okay.
it wasn't like shoe contracts. Mm-hmm. It wasn't big clothing endorsements, because everything was so endemic to skateboarding itself. So it was hard to do anything that wasn't associated. And as the skate parks started to disappear due to liability circumstances,
Okay.
that's when skating took a dive in terms of popularity, and with making a living at it was almost impossible.
Interesting. Now I have a Tony Hawk clothing line shirt. I'm sorry I didn't wear it today. I think it's on the hamper.
Well, this was the original. So this was licensed through Stubbies. Remember the brand Stubbies?
Remember Stubbies.
It wasn't until much later that we started our kids clothing line called Hawk Clothing, and that was my siblings and I.
Okay.
And it was our answer to trying to find skate and surf
Yep.
style clothing for our kids, because we all had young kids, and everything out there was all oshkosh bagosh. It was like you were dressing them up as little soldiers, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It didn't reflect a cool culture.
Yeah, the California lifestyle.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's go. We've got another clip to show you here.
Okay. Yeah. So this had to be one of the YMCA skate parks.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Encinitas or Mission Valley.
I think the photog just said he was going to get out of the way.
Collision. Well,
Now, do you remember that happening?
I don't remember that happening. No.
You don't.
No.
You've fallen too many times. I mean, how often does
I've fallen and dealt with camera people in the wrong place enough, but that was more my fault, because you can tell I'm approaching the rail. I should know the distance from my board to the ground and how much room I need. So that's on me. If I got hurt doing that, it's my fault.
Well, the cameraman behind that camera is here today. That's Kenny over here.
Oh.
And I almost ruined your career.
You did. You didn't. It's okay. It's not my first rodeo.
You got up
And besides that, like, look,
Oh.
if you can pick which one of these is from that incident, then you're better than I am.
And how do you have so many scars there or do you not usually have knee pads on?
This is where my board gets tangled up.
Ah, okay, the
So
board.
if I'm falling or I'm bailing, it bounces around, and the grip tape, which is just sandpaper,
Yeah,
gets into
scraping.
there. Sometimes when I'm learning a new trick and I know that it's probably going to happen, I have these kind of low-key shin guards to wear. Yeah.
Very nice. That's pretty good. The one other question I was going to ask you, when we Zoomed during the pandemic, you said that you're continuing to open skateboard parks. Do you continue to do that?
Yeah, we have a foundation actually here in my office called the Skate Park Project.
Okay.
And we help to fund and facilitate public skate parks in underserved areas. And
Awesome.
It's been going 20 years as of this year. We've helped to fund over 800 skate parks.
Wow.
And we've given away, I think, roughly $15 million. So it's been great. I mean, that's my proudest work.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I get more places to skate. But we have a few that we've helped here in San Diego.
Okay.
And we have a big push with the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation in the Detroit area. So
Okay.
there's a few there, but all over. We're in all 50 states.
Awesome. I think that's got it. Unless there's anything else you want to add about some of the topics we've touched on, or anything I haven't asked you about.
No, I mean, talking about the speaking tour is weird because it's only in Europe.
Yeah.
But I plan to do something like that in the U.S. as well, and I do a lot of different corporate gigs and things. So you see me around, but hey, I'm just happy to still be here in San Diego and still able to ride my skateboard after all I've been through.
Yeah. Tony, we appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.